Well, hello everybody on this fine, very cool February day, at least where I'm at. It's a pretty cool day. Anyway, we are smack dab in the middle of Oscar season as far as post nominations. What are we now? Less than okay, it's the last Saturday or the last Sunday rather of this month is when the actual ceremony is for the Oscars. So that means we are what 20 something, whatever, however many days. It's a few weeks away. And this is, I said it in my last video, but this has become the most interesting and unpredictable Best Picture race, at least, we've had in a long, long time. Um, Beyond last year, because at this point last year, everything was starting to size up. Birdman was starting to come on strong after a PGA and SAG win back to back. Um, the year before that, 12 Years a Slave and Gravity, it was kind of, leaning toward 12 Years a Slave at this point, at least. And we knew going into DGA it was going to be Gravity, so. Um, Let me think here. 2012, yeah, everything started to go Argo's way by this point, obviously. Um, 2011, The Artist swept everything. This time, 2010, King's Speech had taken over, was winning everything now. BAFTA, I think, was close to this time. And it's the 14th. It's on Valentine's Day this year, so that's coming up pretty soon here, is this year's British Awards. British Academy Awards, I should say. Well, even 2009, The Hurt Locker was a pretty easy bet. 2008, Slumdog was an easy bet. 2007, No Country for Old Men had it for a while, um, and we knew it was coming. 2006, that was probably getting close to the last time because we had, Little Miss Sunshine was pressing a little bit with like a PGA win. And if I'm not incorrect, also a SAG win, um, but Scorsese, was the easy bet for director, and so that was, yeah, it was kind of the last time it was that close, but there was such a precedent at that time, and it had, last year the director and picture had split with Brokeback Mountain and Crash, so everybody knew, okay, so if Scorsese's taking director, there's a good bet Departed's going to take picture. So even then, that's probably the last time we got close, with the exception of Crash and Brokeback Mountain. So yeah, it's been close to a decade since we've had this competitive a race. And even then, you look at it, it was Little Miss Sunshine or The Departed. And Babel had a little play in there too, as I'm recalling. But it was, yeah, it was like mainly two-way race. It was either Brokeback or it was going to be Crash that year, 2005. So this year we've got, I can make a case for four of the Best Picture nominees, but that's not what this video is about. Now that we've wasted 3 minutes of this introduction here, what you'll notice sometimes is I'll go into when I'm trying to size up the competition and stuff and talk about these categories, I always say, oh, by the way, and stuff like that. And I'll bring up like a quick review of a movie or something. So that's what I wanted to do today. I don't really want to talk about the DGA for another day or two because I'm getting close to maybe switching who I have to win. It's the closest I've come in a long time, but I might briefly touch on that at the end here. But I wanted to do is just go through the 8 best pictures from my view. I've seen them all at least once. Mad Max, since it's out on DVD, I've seen a few times. The Martian, I just picked up on DVD. I haven't gotten all the way. I started it, but I didn't finish it. Seeing that again. Let's see. Bridge of Spies, I think, is going to be out. If it's not out now, it's pretty soon. And then Spotlight, I'm starting to see ads. I looked it up. That one doesn't come out till it'll be the Friday before, or the not the Friday. I think the Tuesday before the Oscars. So I can see that one again after the Oscars are over, or slightly before, depending on when I buy it. But anyways. So what I wanted to do is just go down the list here, look at all these, and just give like a hopefully, and I won't get way too far into it because these won't be proper reviews. We'd be here for 4 hours. I don't want to be here for 4 hours. So we're just gonna go through what I liked about it, what I didn't like about it, if anything I didn't like about it. All right, let's go. Let's just go alphabetically here. So the first one would be that we're going to talk about The Big Short. Coincidentally, this is the one of the 8 best pictures this year. This is the only one. This is the one that I liked the least, actually. Still, that being said, I did really like it, and I have a feeling if I do see it again, it'll get better on the second viewing for sure. Because yeah, especially the first time I saw it, I'm like, I had no clue or inkling that Adam McKay was going to be was going to be one of our best directors. I had an inkling it was going to be a best picture because this was this was New Year's Day, I think, when I saw it, and or somewhere around there, last week of December, first week of January, somewhere in there. And it was right before the nominations came out. So after getting into Globes, SAG, all that, I knew it was going to be a Best Picture nominee, and I knew Christian Bale was a good bet for supporting actor and the screenplay and stuff like that. But I had no idea that McKay would get in, at least while I was watching the movie. So I didn't really think about the direction all that much while I was watching it. Maybe in rewatching it, I'll keep an eye out for that. But for me personally, I am not an expert on housing market at all. Like the terminology they're using, I'm completely, went right over my head. Even after they bring in, and it was really cute when they brought in the celebrity cameos to try to have them explain it to us dummies in the audience. And even then, I would get maybe 3/4 of it, if not, if even that. Um, and that just ended up being for me the problem of the movie was the acting is great. Carell is really probably, if not his best performance, because Foxcatcher, I mean, that was fantastic. Certainly his second or third best. Little Miss Sunshine, he was great in too. Um, for film and stuff. I mean, I won't bring up like The Office or anything like that. And then Christian Bale was good. Again, I wasn't really. I was kind of waiting for that give me the Oscar moment, and he doesn't. Not to give anything away, I don't think he really has one that stands above the rest of his scenes. Actually, I don't. I don't know. I don't know why he's nominated. Actually, for, thinking about it, and again, if I see it again, maybe there was something I missed, or there's something little that I didn't see on that first viewing that maybe I'll catch the second time. But I didn't see anything that made him stand out more than Steve Carell, more than Ryan Gosling, who I thought was very good in it too, or even Brad Pitt, who again he's probably of the 4 main characters has the least amount to do, and then Bale is probably second to him, or more. He gets the second least. You get what I mean? Um, yeah, I don't know why he was nominated at lead for Globes. Christian Bale. Why? I have no idea. But anyways, yeah, I thought the cast was great. The supporting cast, you go down there. Marissa Tomei, Melissa Leo, Finn Wittrock, Rafe Spall. Those are the names that stick out to me. And yeah, they're all convincing in their roles. They're all very good. The screenplay I thought was what really stood out to me. I mean, breaking the fourth wall is great. The narrations from Gosling mostly are very, very insightful sometimes. And the wording of it, I think, yeah, this thing is. I think it's got adapted screenplay, not in the bag, but definitely, I think it's going to win. I think it's, as I recall, it's up for the WGA in a week or a little over a week. I think it'll win that. And yeah, I think that's probably the biggest strength of the movie for me is the screenplay. Really great screenplay. I mean, sparkling dialogue, what I call the sparkling screenplay. It has that dialogue that just really snappy lines, and they're quick, and they're basically any screenplay by Aaron Sorkin is another what I call a sparkling screenplay. So like there's a line, I think it's in most of the trailers and stuff, where he says, "Tell me the difference between ignorance and stupidity, and I'll have my wife's brother arrested." That's a Ryan Gosling line in the movie. It was great. Examples like that is what I'm thinking of. Yeah, so yeah, that was just my big problem with the movie was after a while, I was just like, okay, so I'm kind of getting the gist here of these people who are with the banks who are um, really greedy and not, looking down on their customers and stuff, and the people, who are in the housing and stuff, are bad, and that these people are good, but at the same time not good because they're going to win millions or billions, depending on who they are, when all is said and done, and when everything comes crashing down. And it's based on a true story. Of course, everything does. So yeah, it's and then the ending. Yeah, I do. What most people I think get out of this movie is they get anger by the end of it that such a thing could happen and that so little could come of consequence of it to the people who were really responsible. And it wasn't, we see it's not these four insiders, the main characters in the movie, or six or so, the whole, main cast there. They're not really the villains or the heroes of this, and they're not the ones who make things happen. They're just the ones who think something could happen, something bad, and they call it, and they call them out on their BS, and they end up winning big money in the end. And yeah, in the end, when you hear one banker who was, who was really um, uh, uh, liable for everything that happens and all of the shit storm that happens afterwards with the crash of the not just the country's market in housing, but also the world's. I mean, it's incredible, and it makes you think, how could only one person when all these other people? Anyways, but yeah, that's not to get into politics and stuff, but anyway, so yeah, I gave it an 8 out of 10. It's a strong 8 out of 10. It's not like a weak 8 out of 10. So yeah. Next, British Spies. Let's see, how are we doing on time here? Okay, I'll try to make these a little quicker. British Spies. I liked it. I liked it a lot. I think I did give it a 9 out of 10 in the end. And but the problem with it for me was it was just a little too safe of a Spielberg epic. You get the feeling more or less from Hanks and from Spielberg and from the cinematography and the writing and stuff. There's almost that feeling of this is a conglomeration of all the other Spielberg epics we've had over the years, and really it's the stuff that really shines for me, at least in the movies, like performance by Mark Rylance, very very great in that supporting role as the Russian spy. Hanks, this is one of his better performances. Maybe not as good as, say, like the Captain Phillips year, or even Saving Mr. Banks for that matter, but definitely one of his performances that I think will stand out for a while. I'm trying to think what else. What else really stood out to me. The screenplay I thought was good, and just it's a really good story too. But the bomber going down, you have to, and the yin and yang of trading, trading for this guy and for this guy, but for this guy, and it has to be included too, and all that stuff. It's a really wonderful story, and it's Spielberg. He knows how to deliver on this stuff. So to that degree, I probably should have given a lower rating if I'm just comparing his, but that's comparing himself to his other works, and that's not the way I judge things. I judge things by I walk in, is it good, is it bad, how good, how bad, and I don't take their previous work into consideration. Um, like this year, another example is the end of the tour, which I saw, which nobody else did, but it's the guy who did Spectacular Now, which was my favorite film of 2 years ago, 3 years ago now, I guess, 2013. And I just fell head over heels for that film. Just from the way it started, and the whole story there, I thought was just phenomenal filmmaking. And then with this one, I walked in and true, I was kind of saying, okay, show me what you got, to the director, whose name I'm forgetting now. But, and he's got like Jason Segel and Jesse Eisenberg, with a good supporting cast there too. And I thought, the first 20 minutes were kind of hard to get into, I thought. And it wasn't just because I was going in with high expectations. I went in with moderate expectations. And that's the way I go into every movie anymore, is you got to have moderate expectations. You can't, I mean, if you go in with extremely high top of the bar expectations, you're only going to be disappointed. That's just the way things are in life. I mean, even when I went last year, I have a good story of this. I went into a double feature, kind of more or less. You go to one screening, one showing, and then there's another showing later for another film. Yeah, I do that all the time anymore. But it was at a smaller theater. They were showing. This was what, November, mid-November. They were showing Birdman and Whiplash. Yes, this and it was probably going down in history, one of the best times that I've been to the movies, where I see one spectacular movie and then I see what turns out to be the best film of the year, and two of the top five films of the year in one night. Incredible. I don't know if I've ever had that good a track record at going to one night at the movies or one day at the movies and getting that good of results for me, but even going in, I had an expectation that both were going to be Best Picture nominees, both were going to be acting nominees, one way or another. But I went in saying, just be a good movie, and I didn't. True, I was kind of looking out for their moments, but that's just an expectation on the actor, not on the film itself as a whole. That's just on their performance. So yeah, and I consider that different than just the film in general. So in that regard, yeah, Bridge of Spies, I went in saying, okay, be a good movie, and it was a really great movie, and it's Spielberg. Like I said, he knows how to direct stuff, and he makes great movies, and this was a good one. So yeah, okay, that's that one. All right, moving on. Brooklyn is the next one. This is between yeah, okay. This was, I think I saw this a little bit before Big Short, but it's been a couple months now or so. And this movie got very close to being on my top 10 list. In fact, I think it's number 11 right now, and I haven't seen every last film out there yet that I wanted to see this year before sealing the deal on my top 10 list. And God, I didn't do last year, did I? No, I never did. I finally caught up like over a year ago with 2012 and 2013, but I still haven't done. Okay, so that's something else I can do later. But yeah, for now, Brooklyn, I thought just on a movie standpoint, it's a good movie, and a sweet movie. Um, the writing is great, the acting is great, the direction is really good. Everything looks fantastic. The costumes and the production design. The music sounds great. Everything about it is just really well done. And at the end of the day, what this basically is, it's a sweet little romance movie about a girl who goes from Ireland to America in the 50s, and Saoirse Ronan, the main actress in it. I just within a few minutes of screen time, she became the most adorable creature on earth for the 2 hours the movie ran. And I think that's exactly what you needed to have happen to you if you're going to get invested in the movie. You have to become invested in her, because with the exception of one scene, she is in every scene. And there's even, I didn't obviously didn't do it, but there's even like a limited number of shots where she is not in the shot. I mean, there's few cutaways that she's not even involved in. It's incredible how involved she is in the movie. Of course, she's the main character, but yeah, literally one scene that's probably not even 2 minutes is all we get of Saoirse Ronan free in that movie. And yeah, I've been on record. I said, yeah, her accent is just adorable, and she is the sweetest little thing on earth. Just for the 2 hours it runs, we like her a lot, and we like the guy a lot that she falls in love with in the movie, the Italian guy. And it's just that sweet, adorable movie that the Academy, I'm so glad they go with every once in a while. Because this, I was starting to think, especially Oscar Morning, when it didn't get into any technical categories, it only had two other nominations other than Best Picture, which were Adapted Screenplay and Actress. But still, I was kind of like Philomena, even though it's a drama more from a couple of years ago now. Even that one, when I came out of it, I was so just swept up in the movie, and I was swept up in Brooklyn too, that I just really, really was so happy when it got nominated. And the same with Philomena too. Yeah, I know that's kind of irrelevant, but oh well. Yeah, so I gave this one. It's like the closest you can get to a 10 to a 9 out of 10 without becoming a 10 out of 10 for me. This and well, another movie, Star Wars. But yeah, so those two were kind of duking it out for my toward now the bottom of my top 10 list. Yeah, the only problem I really had with the movie is okay, so there's the great love story and stuff, but that's really about all it has to offer. And not to say that it, that it needs to have more going on, but it's just mainly on this girl, and she meets this guy. They fall in love. It's their romance, and then through circumstances that I won't say here because it's a spoiler in the movie, she goes back to Ireland for a bit and has to decide, okay, do I stay here now because circumstances have changed for my home and for my family, or do I go back to my boyfriend overseas? And yeah, I mean that alone probably is it's a good enough third act kind of turn to make you really interested in how it comes out. But for me, it's just I just wish there was just a little not to say you need like a big villain to come in the third act to try to take her away or anything, or to abduct her or some shit like that, because I think that would have just totally spoiled it. But I just a little like maybe one other like plot line running. Um, maybe we could see things, maybe one or two more scenes, say, without her. We would go back and see what her family's doing over in Ireland while she's gone. We only get like maybe a few shots of that, and it's still either Saoirse Ronan is narrating over it, or they're replying to her letter or something, and we're cutting back and forth. But yeah. Anyway, so yeah, a really adorable movie, and definitely one. When it comes out on DVD, Blu-ray, whatever, Redbox, check that one out. Take the time. It's less than 2 hours. It's like hour 50 or so, and it's just great all the way through. So that's one of my favorites of the best pictures this year, definitely. Okay, what's next? Mad Max. Okay, yeah. Now I might seem to have, and I've kind of said this every once in a while. Yeah, there's really, to me, of these 8 films, I can understand 7 of them being on the Best Picture list. This is the one outlier this year. I mean, when we look in history, when do action movies get nominated? Never, ever. Die Hard wasn't nominated. The Hunt for Red October, more or less a thriller, but, action movie. Never got a Best Picture nomination. Lethal Weapon never got a Best Picture nomination. It's stuff like Raiders of the Lost Ark, and even then that had the big pedigree of having Spielberg, who at that point already was starting to say, okay, I've got an IOU or two here for some works I've done. Um, and I don't know if George Miller's up to that level of IOUs. I mean, he's been nominated a couple times, I think, for screenplay before this, like Lorenzo's Oil and Babe, and I think he was a producer on Babe too for picture. But he won. He directed Happy Feet, so he's already got an Oscar on his shelf. People, don't start with this. George Miller doesn't have an Oscar bullshit, because he does. Look it up, dumbasses. Sorry, but yeah. So to a certain degree, this is the one film that I would just almost automatically bump out in favor of, say, oh, what else this year? Carol, even Creed. I thought was a better movie than this. Steve Jobs, I would have put in there. Of these films that had Oscar pedigree, other nominations and stuff. Not, but that, again, but the whole thing is, that doesn't mean it's not a great film. I thought it was just, as far as action movies go this year, this is top of the line. This is awesome. I mean, the stunts and everything, it's just everything they put into this movie. The effects look terrific, and they're minimal. They're kind of background. And a lot of it is just taking away the wires and stuff from the stunt people that were, dangling on whatever they did in the film. It's all spectacular, car chases and stuff. And yeah, again, my big problem with this one was, okay, so you've got your car chase here, basically, which is, of the 2 hours the movie runs, is 90% of your running time. The rest of it's, okay, maybe that's not fair. 75% of your running time. The rest of it is little interactions between characters and trying to figure out what to do next, and not to say I was never bored during the movie too, so that helps. And I definitely think that George Miller's direction, though, on this it's a worthy nominee for director. I don't know if it's worthy enough to be a Best Picture nominee for myself, but that's just my tastes. Um, yeah, just the other thing is, okay, so you have your little interactions, you have your big car chase and stuff, but where's the rest of the story at? Where's your explanation for, a little bit more explanation for how Immortan Joe, yeah, I think that's the bad guy's name, how he rose to power, and how all these people, regular people, who I think they call them full bloods or full lives or whatever, and you had your half bloods, or no, it's not half bloods, it's half lives. How do sure, they kind of explain that a little bit with, the radiation and nuclear wars and stuff, but how did Morton Joe rise to power, and how did Furiosa come to power? And how did, sure, I think we get enough of an explanation about Mad Max. I mean, he's got 3 freaking other movies, true, but yeah, even in that opening scene, that was enough. If this was your first Mad Max movie, if you've never seen the originals, that was enough of a setup. So you're like, okay, I kind of know who this guy is, but and that's like within 3 minutes of the start of the movie. So um, yeah, but for me, it's just that, and then you could have added, a little bit here and there to do that. But at the same time, there's that on the one hand, on the other hand. On the other hand, though, it is kind of neat just to have that mystery of, okay, so this Immortan Joe guy, doesn't matter how he got here and he's dominating everybody. And same with Furiosa, doesn't matter how she got here, she is his second in command and his, and runs the big rig and stuff. And or what do they call it? Yeah, big rig, whatever it is. I don't fanboys, or as I call them, war boys, because literally they call war boys are mentioned at one point in the movie or something, and that's a class system there. So I call the fanboys on this movie, I call them war boys because they're. I mean, I get liking the movie a lot, like I did. I do not get, for me personally, I don't understand the overpraising of this. I call it, it is definitely overpraising. This is not the best movie ever made. Sorry, folks, it's not. This is not the greatest technical achievement of the year. Probably that comes down to The Revenant. The Martian has an argument in there. This is probably third in that race. And this is not the best action movie ever made. Is it the best action movie of the year? Yes, I'll give you that. But the overwhelming and love for this, and really just the shaming of everybody who's in that minority of the 4 or 5% of people who hate this movie. And I have to say, the rest of my family is in that 4 to 5%. Everybody else who I've seen this movie with, who is not really the given target audience of this, and and a couple of them, even in my family, are the target audience for this. They didn't like it. They thought it was too weird. And that's why I think it's not going to win Best Picture. It's too weird for the 65-year-olds, retired people who maybe they've seen The Road Warrior on rerun or something, or they've seen Beyond Thunderdome on rerun on TV. But yeah. Anyways, but that doesn't subtract from this being the best action movie of the year. Yeah, the stunts are fantastic. The direction is great. Even Tom Hardy and Charlize Theron, I thought, were really good in their roles. Maybe not best actor, best actress material, but those kind of get into crowded fields. And definitely not a screenplay. I mean, my God, anybody who's going out on a limb to say this is a screenplay potential, you're crazy. Sorry. Yeah, that's what I call War Boy. Yeah, you're definitely crazy on that one. All right. Yeah, bottom line, it was a 9 out of 10. Just the only thing, yeah, a little bit more explanation for me, but then again, I can see your counter argument there. But this is me we're talking about, not you, me. So I could have used a little more story, but I did like how they did have the breaks in there. It wasn't a constant, chase picture. So yeah, 9 out of 10. I really enjoyed it. Best action movie of the year, but I don't get the overpraising on it. All right, that's enough of that one. Let's go to, what's the next one? Room. Okay, of these 8, this one is my favorite. Room is my favorite, and it's probably, of these 8, it's definitely the one for me that had the most emotional impact. It's the one that other than Creed, made me almost cry. Creed actually made me bawl my eyes out at points, but I don't know why either. But anyway, that's another review for another day. I think I've briefly touched on that one before, but But Room, my God, this was spectacular. Oh man, this was so good. I mean, first of all, it's Brie Larson and Jacob Tremblay are revelations in this, especially for me, Tremblay, who I'd never heard of before this. For me, he's so mature, at least in appearances in the film. You know, you'll see this with child actors. I mean, look back to Jake Lloyd in Star Wars: The Phantom Menace. You get that sense sometimes through their facial expressions that they are acting to act. You know, that they've been on set all day. They've been shooting the scene for an hour. They're tired. They want a nap. They want snacks. They want to get some food. They want something. And not to say other actors don't do that, but it's they can hide it better. These are child actors. Not to say that's terrible, you know, but and that they automatically are the worst actors on the planet. No way. But Tremblay, I thought, just was, you know, I never got the sense that he was tired during a shoot, that he was, that he was exhausted, that he was whining and complaining. No, I got a sense of professionalism, and he's only what 8 or 9 years old, so that's spectacular. Keep on to that, and I really want to see. I really want to see him get picked up from this and get other films to work on, because he's one I would love to see what kind of chops this little kid has as an actor in 5-10 years, and maybe who knows, maybe next time he'll get nominated when he gets a good role like this, and he might get a win even. He's spectacular in this, and I do think if he ever does a film like this again, that's going to be in the best picture conversation, that he's going to be in the conversation for an acting race. They'll bring up Room and they'll say, remember how good he was in that, and I do think, yeah, he's definitely going to be brought up. And then Brie Larson. Having seen Spectacular Now, 21 Jump Street, even Dawn John, or what was the other one? Forgot what the other one was. Anyways, but and the what was the Mark Wahlberg one, The Gambler? There we go. Even seeing her through that, I could see, okay, this is not just a gorgeous blonde here. This is a talented actress, a very gifted young actress. You know, even Spectacular Now was probably, and I haven't seen the other one she did, Short Term 12, that was getting good reviews and raves of conversation for Best Actress. But yes, I did enjoy her up to then. And then when I heard about this film, Room, I was like, okay, you know, maybe this will be her break in and she'll get nominated finally. She's not just nominated; she's gonna win this, man. And you don't have to look at Golden Globe, SAG wins, all the critics groups that have lined up with Brie Larson. Doesn't matter; she's gonna win this, because just seeing the 5 nominees, and I haven't seen Charlotte Rampling yet, but the other, between those 4 actors, her, Jennifer Lawrence, Saoirse Ronan, and Cate Blanchett, she just her, not just her performance, but her role in the movie is one that is it's an Oscar-winning role. I mean, really, if they'd passed up Brie Larson and give it to somebody else, as long as they were a gifted actress, they were going to get nominated for this no matter what. It's one of those roles, kind of like you could look back to The Godfather, Vito Corleone. No matter who played that role, really, it's such a dynamic role that no matter who had played it, even if it wasn't Brando, there was a good shot they were going to get nominated. You could look at this year, Steve Jobs. I think that's such a dynamic guy, even if there's question about that. No matter who got cast in that, Fassbender or not, it was going to be in the conversation at least. Same with like Eddie Redmayne this year in The Danish Girl, or even last year for Theory of Everything. There's some of those roles come up where you're just like, that's a role that'll get nominated no matter what, unless they cast the wrong person and it's not a very good performance. This is one of them. Playing the mother in Room is phenomenal role, and I've been thinking, you know what? She is spectacular in this, and her I'm sure her next performances are going to be great, maybe even better than this. But I don't think she's going to ever top this role. I mean, just the way that she fleshes out the character as much as she can, despite having just the simple name of Ma. for most of the movie. She's called, her name's Joy, but they don't always address her as that. It's mainly Tremblay calling her Ma. I mean, just I don't know how you top that. Just the way she fleshes it out, despite it being so simplistic, and her performance thrown into that. I mean, it's no matter what happens with Brie Larson, even if she gets another 12 nominations after this, I think this is one of the roles, at least one of the roles she's going to go down in history for as an actress. So, and the direction I thought was fantastic. Lenny Abrahamson, who I'd never heard of up to the point of seeing the movie, I thought was he's a gifted director. I want to see what he's doing next. Emma Donahue, I believe, is or Donahue, or however you want to pronounce her last name, wrote the book that this is based on, Room, and I think if Big Short loses all of its steam and Room pulls an upset, it's going to be in that adapted screenplay category. I don't think it has the cojones to win Best Picture at this point, or the backing, but not being nominated at PGA, DGA, or SAG in the top categories. Um, but yeah, I'm thinking she's next in line if The Big Short would lose that. But that screenplay, even though there's not a whole lot of sparkling dialogue in the movie for me, just there's one line in particular. I don't want to say where it is in the film, but there's a line where Brie Larson says to Jack, her son. The character's name is Jack. It's Jacob Tremblay, the actor, where she says, "I'm a terrible mom," and then within like 2 seconds, he says, "But your ma," and just the way that he said it, just the way, the situation that they are in the movie, being trapped in a 10 by 10 shed with a freaking skylight as your only sight to the outside world that she used to know and that he has never known. Just the impact of that emotions, plus where it's at in the film, plus the fact that she just bawls her eyes out as soon as he's done saying that, and I can. Just in thinking about it every once in a while, I get kind of misty eyed thinking about it because it's just so beautifully done, and they're both very talented actors. It's in my top 10 list, in the top three at the moment. I even on a second or third viewing, I might bump it up because it's my God, it's the best film of the year of these Best Picture nominees. But yeah. Okay, that's one. If it's still playing, see Room. Please see it, and don't be thrown off by the whole. They're in a 10 by 10 space for 2 hours. The outside world does play a role in it at one point or another. I won't exactly spoil it, but yeah, that's this year's Whiplash. I think it's the film that independent film, small distributor. That isn't one of the usual big players in the Oscars, A24 in this case, or it was Sony Classics last year with Whiplash, where it doesn't get huge theater counts, and it's not playing in every theater at once at the same time. It's one you have to go out and look for. It's that discovery movie, as some people call it, and I'll steal that and call it a discovery movie too, where it's one of the best movies of the year, absolutely. All right, moving on. What's next here? Spotlight. We'll go with Spotlight next. This is another one. It's in my top 10, at least at the moment, for the year. And this is one where, again, I don't really have any huge problems with this one. Same with Room. You could tell I really just enjoy Room. 10 out of 10 for that one, by the way. And this one I think is a 10 out of 10 too. First of all, it's the acting. The acting is what makes the movie. Sure, the screenplay is great, and it's got a lot of memorable lines, like "How can you say no to God?" and stuff like that. That's a great line. I'm trying to think what else. And there's other lines like Tucci's lines are great, and he's of the performances of the movie, he's the one. Him and Ruffalo to me are the two that stand out. Keaton's great. McAdams is great, and she's even nominated. Liev Schreiber's really good. Brian Darcy James, who's the other journalist in the mix there, other than John Slattery, who's also good. Everybody in the cast is great, but for me, Ruffalo and Tucci stand out. And Ruffalo, he's got that big shouting scene where he gets really upset with Keaton. You've probably seen it in all the trailers and TV ads and stuff, where a big break has just happened in the story that they're and it's working on the Boston priest molestation case in 2001, going to 2002, and he there's a new discovery there, and he's trying to coerce Keaton into saying, "We've got to print this. We've got to print this now. Other newspapers might might hear of what we're doing here, and they're going to muck up the story, and we're done. And nothing's going to happen because they do get very involved. And wouldn't you too be emotionally involved in this? Because I mean, who wants to see children abused by the church? I mean, it's incredibly moving in that way too. Where there's a particular scene where the movie starts with kind of the aftermath of a molestation, where somebody has finally been kind of brought to justice. As you'll see in the movie. I don't want to give way too much away, but you know. And we see that these guys are these priests are they're in some cases, as we discover, as the journalists discovered in the film, are repeatedly molesting and abusing children. And what do they get? Slap on the wrist. That's all that. There's my wrist. Hit the right spot even. Yeah, they all they get is a slap on the wrist, and they move to a new town, and they start all over again, and nothing happens. It's incredible, and again, kind of like Big Short, it kind of gives you that sense of anger and that sense of, okay, I want, even if journalists, and true, there are journalists who get a very bad rap, paparazzi specifically, and excuse me, I had a little air in my throat. Anyways, but people get these bad raps. Journalists get really bad raps, and this shows no. These are journalists with integrity. And even if you hate journalism in general, and you hate everybody, when they're getting in the way, trying to interview people when they don't want to be interviewed and stuff, you understand to a point of understanding that that's their job and that that's what they're paid to do. But then also, once you see this, you figure out, I want them to get to the bottom of this and bring these people to justice, because they need to be brought to justice. These bastards, these sons of bitches, need to be just harangued for their just awful actions. And I think there's a point early on where we kind of see that start to happen, and at that point it's like you just become totally invested in that. And that's the other key to this movie, I think, too, is this is a not entirely, but kind of pre-Google age, where instead of just typing up priest molestation scandal on Google and finding your answers and typing up a story in 5 minutes, these journalists have to go to actual books, books. I don't know, copyright stuff. Sorry. I have a book on my desk here, but actual books you can open, and there's pages, some kids don't know what those are anymore. But and they do research, and they put together all the resources to print up the paper and stuff, and it's actual printed paper. It's not stuff you read online, and yeah, it's spectacular stuff. And normally that sounds boring, and on paper it might sound boring, but just the way the film is edited, it's quick paced, and everything is forward momentum. And a lot of that, I think, credit goes to Tom McCarthy, who I'm glad got nominated for this. Absolutely. He made it not boring, and that's a difficult task, Same, you can go back to, like, All the President's Men and Network, Stuff like that on the page might sound boring. Sure, there's a couple great, yelling scenes and stuff in those movies, like especially the Faye Dunaway character and the Peter Finch characters. Those are such dynamic characters. Another example of, no matter who was cast in the movie, they were going to get nominated at least that year. Those two roles for sure. And there's that sense of excitement and of forward momentum, energy, throughout the picture. And Spotlight had that, absolutely. It does have that, I should say. And again, acting is terrific, and the direction's great, the screenplay's great, everything is really great about it. The only complaint I had was there are a couple of points where they say, well, this person said this, and you have to kind of keep track of really about 6 or 7 characters who, some of them don't even appear on screen. Like Richard Jenkins, I found out later, is the voice of somebody who you hear over the phone, who's got a lot of information on the priests and has done research and stuff. and we never see him. We hear him a couple of times through phone calls, and then you have to remember this guy. You have to remember this guy because they're important in the case because they settle cases, and this guy because he's this, and this guy because he's that, and this guy because he said that, and that guy because they interviewed him. And everyone, So there are a couple of times where they just say their name, and you have to kind of think back and say, okay, did they? Yeah. So maybe that's again on the second or third viewing. Maybe that'll all be fine with me. But on the first viewing, I was kind of a little, taken aback by that. But I think at the end of the day, though, I was able to enjoy it absolutely. So yeah, that's a 10 out of 10. Currently on my top 10 list, could change. I have a couple, like I said, a couple other movies I haven't seen yet this year. So that came out this previous year, I should say. It's 2016 now. Next up, The Martian. All right, The Martian. This is I kind of did a review on this already, more or less a while back. And I haven't seen it all the way through again, but for the second time. But this is a really entertaining movie, fascinatingly entertaining movie. We could go to the acting. Matt Damon is really great in this, even though he's kind of playing Matt Damon. He's really good. Jessica Chastain and the other astronauts are great. The ground control, I guess you can call them, the NASA people. Jeff Daniels and Kristen Wiig and all them. Chiwetel Ejiofor, especially, really good work. And the screenplay for me is, again, that sparkling screenplay where Drew Goddard adapted this spectacular job. Really glad he was nominated, even if he did have to kick out, Aaron Sorkin for Steve Jobs. But okay, fine, bring Sorkin back in, kick him out. But whatever. Actually, I think Carol would have been the one I would have kicked out of that category. Not to say that's a terrible script, but just the competition in that category this year, spectacular competition. Versus original screenplay where it's like spotlight and that's it. But anyways, getting off topic now. The Martian. Yeah, like I said, the only problems I had with it really were like there's one scene where all the astronauts kind of have to decide something, whether they're going to help Damon or not. And there's that kind of single credit to them where it's like they're all just like yep. And you would have wished for maybe a little more conflict there. And the movie's 2 hours and 20 minutes. It doesn't feel it at all. You never get the feeling that it's too long, but that might put some people off. I'd say, go ahead, just cancel your evening plans or whatever the day you're going to watch it, and go ahead and watch it because it's a really great movie, and it definitely feels like a good 2 hours flat, even though there's another 20 minutes on there. The direction's good, and I've been saying throughout this, and I think I said it there too in the other video. I think this is like October movie reviews is where I talked about this at a little greater length. So I'll go ahead and say go back to that one to get a little bigger idea of it, but my feelings on it. But Ridley Scott, I didn't think some people were saying he gets all the credit for this. He was amazing. No. Come on, Goddard and Damon are the two people I would put ahead of him as far as the responsibility for how good this is. I mean, that screenplay was just flippin' amazing. And Damon, really great. And, taking one of those two out of the equation would really hurt the film. Not to say Ridley couldn't have saved it. And, he is a talented director. It's the guy who brought us Gladiator, brought us Alien, Blade Runner. Go on down the list, all the different films he's made that turn out great. Or if not really good. This is a gifted guy, and I at one point did have him out to win Best Director because I thought he's had the long career. It's a technical achievement to make all this work. He didn't end up nominated, but oh well. Anyways, so I gave it a 10 out of 10. It's funny too. I didn't mention that. Very funny movie at times. Maybe not enough to be a Golden Globe nominee for Best Picture musical comedy, but it has a lot of laughs in it, definitely. And I like the disco music. For some reason 70s music is just my thing, but 70s and then mid to early 80s too. But enough about that. I have a kind of more. That's probably the one that I've talked the most about previous to this, as far as how much I liked it. So I'll recommend you check out. It's on my channel if you're really invested in this. With October movie reviews, it's a little ways back, but you can look that one up. And the last one, The Revenant. All right, I think this is the last one, the most current one I've seen. Yeah, and I saw this. I think it was Thursday night. It opened in a wide release, which was a week before the Oscar nominations came out. So, yeah, this is the one that's most recent in memory. So, again, I'll try to wrap this up. I know we're getting close to an hour, so I'll try to shut this down soon. But Leo is really great in the movie. Tom Hardy is really good. The rest of the cast is good. But the direction is where this movie goes. Alejandro Inarritu, I don't know how he did half the stuff he did in the movie. And the same goes to, I think, a good credit also goes to Emmanuel Lubezki, the cinematographer. Seriously, one of the best looking movies I have seen in a long time. Roger Deakins always does a spectacular job. Like Skyfall to me was his last really, really good one. And yeah, and that had a lot of beautiful moments in it visually. This one, I think, definitely tops that, and I think it tops his work on Birdman and Gravity too. And both of those were Oscar winners for this or for cinematography. In Birdman, that single shot style was terrific, and how he pulled that off it's incredible. And Gravity with that, the first long take, like the first 13 minutes of the movie's one take. That's another one where you're just like, how did they do that? And it's spectacular. And and to have three movies in a row like that, all have those really distinct styles. And then I think he also shot Tree of Life too. I haven't seen that, but just from what I've seen of it, the visuals and stuff, I'm like, how does this guy keep coming back for more? And he presents something totally visually different every time out. I don't know how he does it. Anyways, but yeah, this the main star of this movie is Alejandro Inarritu and his cameraman Lubezki, and they make everything look gorgeous, and the visual effects even, especially that freaking bear scene, man, is kind of terrifying. When I was the trailer for this, by the way, too, I think is the best trailer of the year. Well, either that or the first 2-minute one for Mad Max Fury Road too, I would say, was, I mean, just the way those, especially the Mad Max one, the way that trailer was cut when it has the Dies Irae soundtrack to it. I know I lost half of you there, but that first, the one that came out of December of 2014, that was, before its release, the one that goes bum 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 bum, and all that. You know the one I'm talking about. Just the quick cuts and everything in that. I just got super energized into seeing the movie, because before I was like, I'll see about it, because I wasn't totally fascinated with it. That trailer, when I saw that trailer, I was like, oh my god! I was so enthused about it, and frankly, I would rather. Sorry, Mad Max Fury Road, but I would rather watch that trailer on loop for 2 hours than the movie again. Sorry, but just that trailer is so spectacular, man. It's awesome. And the Revenant trailer I was really excited about too, because it, again, has those things where you're just like, oh my god, I can't wait to see that. And I can't wait to see that. Like, the opening Indian attack is brutal and fascinating how they did it, And again, most of that, the takes, you follow people around all the time with the camera, and they're, it's not one take, the whole scene, but it's, they do cut, but yeah, again, it's spectacular work, and it just starts the movie off with a blast, and you're like, holy crap. And then pretty soon after that is the bear scene. And in the trailer, I remember when that bear scene came up, I was like, oh my god, that looks amazing. How did they do that? I mean, I was thinking that has to be like a motion capture or something, because there's no way. Just the way they show Leo, tussling around, being bitten and mauled by this mama bear. Incredible. And the scene in the movie, again, it's terrifying, because you're like, oh my god, this guy, we just introduced him, he's dead. But it's Leo, so he's not going to die. But there's kind of a short question mark there where you're like, how did he survive that? And then the rest of the movie, what he has to endure, being betrayed and backstabbed by Tom Hardy, what he does to his son, which I won't say explicitly what he does, but he definitely deserves what he, kind of more or less deserves what he has coming to him. And Leo's trek across the wilderness to get back to the camp that everybody else, the rest of his fur trading camp, and the fur trading troop he's in. And I think it's supposed to take place in the Dakotas in 1820s or 30s, something like that. Anyways, but yeah, and then the French get involved at one point, and he has to steal horses, and he, his horse comes off a cliff at one point, and he was soaring through the air to try to catch onto a branch or something to survive. It's incredible, just spectacular, and it's based on true events. Now, how true some of these events are, question mark, but. And just from beginning to end, it has that energy to it. Again, kind of like Spotlight. Different kind of energy here, though. Kind of more almost like an action movie energy, though. Uh, and at the end, you get that showdown between Hardy and Leo that you're waiting to see, because otherwise they only have maybe two scenes to each other before that. Anyways, but yeah, even that end fight has a good energy to it, and you're finally ready for Leo to get his revenge on this guy. Yeah, so my two big problems with the movie. Number one is kind of Tom Hardy. Well, first of all, his character. His character is almost, to an extent, so mean-spirited and so evil that he almost feels like a caricature. I can understand, his points there's certain points where he does stuff, and I'm like, well, I can kind of see why he would want to do that, because he's trying to. I don't want to fall into it plot point here, but there's a point where he and a couple other guys have to stay behind with this guy, because he's with Leo as he's dying from the bear attack and the wounds from it, and their commander kind of says, okay, this guy has gotten us this far through the wilderness. He knows the territory. I don't want to say how he knows the territory, because that might be a spoiler. But he knows the territory. He's gotten us this far. He deserves a proper burial when he finally dies, and I want you guys to stay behind with him until he does. And Tom Hardy says, okay, I'll do that. And he gets extra money for it. But yeah, there is a point where you're like, okay, I can understand. There's a point where he's like, we have to move on. It's bitterly cold out here. This guy's already halfway in the ground. Let's just put him in. And there's a point where he says to Leo's character, he says, your boy might die, from being out here and being exposed to this, um, save your boy, and we'll just go ahead, we'll bury you. You're dead. You're pretty much dead. You're bleeding all over the place. Let me get your boy to safety, and you can understand his point too, definitely, but there comes a point where you're like, come on, you have to be that mean-spirited and that foul and that at times degrading to so he felt like a character at points, and then plus his articulation and his accent make it at times very difficult to understand what he's saying. I almost felt like I needed subtitles through this at points to get every last word coming out of his mouth. And he's had this problem before, but yeah. Anyways, so other people have complained about that, so I don't want to drag on that too long. The other thing is, it's 2 hours and 35 minutes, or like 2:37, whatever it is. It's over 2.5 hours. Does it really have to be that long? I mean, there's points in the movie where, yeah, you want to see, okay, so how did Leo get to this point, and how did he survive this far without this happening to him, this happening to him, this happening to him? Didn't he get wounded there, so he has to do this to heal himself and stuff? And yeah, and you want to see that, but at the same time, it just feels like chop out a good 10, 15 minutes, and I think it helps out the movie a little bit. That's and that kind of hurts it in the end. As even though I wasn't really totally bored at points in the movie, but just toward the middle there, it kind of almost starts to sag a little bit, where you're like, okay, and there's more Leo walking in the wilderness for another 2-minute shot of him in the gorgeous background. And sure, it's great to see the gorgeous mountains and snow and everything in the background, but that takes your attention for a little while, and then you're like, okay, let's go see what else is going on here. Let's go see, and we go, cut back and forth between Tom Hardy and Leo, and Tom Hardy's also trying to get back to the commander and collect on his money and stuff too. So, we want to keep knowing a little bit about his character too. So, yeah. Yeah, so that was really my only complaints. It's 9 out of 10. It's a gorgeous looking movie. Leo is really good in it, definitely. Tom Hardy's good. Direction is fabulous, and cinematography will take your breath away. Yeah, all right. I think we've spent enough time on this. Yeah, you get the gist of it. It's it's a good year for film too. I mean, Steve Jobs is in my top 10 of the year. It's actually in my top 5 without giving too much away at the moment. So it's a pretty safe bet for it being in my top 10. Uh, let's see, looking down here, the other nominees I've seen. Trumbo was good, not great. Um, Danish Girl, Get Me Heard About Me, saying about that in the other video, so look to that. It's the last one I did, talking about SAG. Creed, yeah, in my top 10. Spectacular movie, very emotional movie. Joy, kind of hated it. Well, actually, I didn't kind of hate it. I legitimately disliked it. So yeah, Carol, really good movie. I kind of went on about that too. And then Hateful Eight is another one for me. I wish that was more of a conversation for Best Picture for me. That's one for me. I thought it was better than Django, and I really like Django, but Hateful Eight I thought was everything Tarantino did that he needed to improve on in Django. He went ahead and did it with Hateful Eight. I think he perfected his version of what a Western should be. So that's my feeling on that. But I thought Hateful Eight was a fun time, and everybody else who saw it with me hated it, and screw them for it. The rest of the audience absolutely loved it. So yeah. All right. Yeah. Okay. That's enough about that. Okay. Let's quickly, and I will do a final video here for the Directors Guild Award nominations here, and for who I think is going to win, because the ceremony is this Saturday. What is that? The 6th of February. I'll probably, yeah, again, Thursday or Friday, I'll post a video here of my final predictions, because I am not entirely sure if I'm still going with who I've got going right now. I've got Inarritu to win right now, but I can see a scenario where all 5 of these guys, by the way, the nominees are Inarritu for The Revenant, Adam McKay for The Big Short, George Miller for Mad Max, Ridley Scott for The Martian, and Tom McCarthy for Spotlight. There's a scenario where all 5 of these guys win. I mean, The Revenant has the huge, beautiful look to it. It's the biggest of these 5 films. I think it has the biggest, or maybe not the biggest, but the most recent of big box office buzz to it. It's still coming in at number 1, number 2, number 3 in the top 10, or in the top box office of the weekends. So it's a popular film. He's a popular director. They might go with him. It is, I think, the technical achievement of the year. Then you have Adam McKay. The Big Short was a big winner at PGA. Kind of surprised us. He could take director, man. If they really love Big Short, they could give it to him. Then you have George Miller, who's between him and Scott, they're both veterans in here, and Mad Max is very appreciated. Maybe not so much by me in the way that other people appreciate it, but it's a spectacular looking movie. He did a great job on it. He could win the thing. Then you have Ridley Scott, who has, not just because it's, again, one of the more technical achievements of the year with The Martian and how he got that to work, but then he's also got the sympathy factor. He's the only one of these 5 guys who is not nominated at the Oscars to win, for director, I should say. So he has not a shot in hell to win the thing at the Oscars, because he's not nominated. That sympathy might go for him. Plus, he's a big television person. He's a producer on a lot of shows. I've even heard from a couple of sources that there are people in the DGA, especially on the television side, who can thank Ridley Scott in particular for giving them the jobs they have. Okay, he's definitely got a shot then, definitely. And then you have Tom McCarthy for Spotlight. Spotlight did just win the Screen Actors Guild Award for Best Cast, and it has Critics' Choice for Best Picture. So if the DGA is gonna be predicting Best Picture, which they sometimes do, Argo that year, even though Ben Affleck wasn't nominated for director. Tom Hooper for Social Network, even though there was a very big argument that it should have been David Fincher, and still an argument that he should have won the director for the Academy Awards too. He did win at BAFTA for director. Thank you, BAFTA. So Tom McCarthy, if Spotlight is our Best Picture winner, they might want to line that up. And I've said it before in a couple other videos, but here we go. the 5 scenarios for what's going to happen after DGA. Okay, if Inarritu wins for The Revenant, I think he's gonna win the Oscar for sure, and I think it's definitely going to be a big push for The Revenant. I'm going to explain more on that in another video. We're running low on time here, so I don't want to waste too much time here, but it'll help The Revenant big time, in other words, and it's already getting a little more help. We'll get back to that later. Trust me, we will. If George Miller wins, okay, he's definitely going to win the Oscar. But I don't think it's enough to push Mad Max to a Best Picture win. Definitely not. So we can definitely bet on that. If Ridley Scott wins, we'll be screwed. Trying to figure this out because The Martian, I think, without the director or editing nomination at the Oscars, is kaput for Best Picture. I think I have it ranked 6th or 7th of those 8 to win. So it doesn't have a shot in hell. It's going to come down to those other 4 here that are nominated. And, then we have to probably look toward BAFTA as the big determiner here for director. Because Miller has director from Critics' Choice, Inarritu has director from the Globes. If BAFTA goes with, say, a McKay or Ridley Scott again, then we are really screwed. And George Miller and McCarthy are not nominated there. So Inarritu, who did not win last year for Birdman at BAFTA, I think will win BAFTA. Unless McKay wins here, then they might change it up, and Big Short might get a big push at BAFTA and end up with like a Best Picture win too over there. And McKay might go along for the ride. That'll be crazy. So that's cross our fingers that Ridley Scott doesn't win this thing, because if he does, man, we will have a really hard time predicting director even at that point. Let's go with Tom McCarthy next. If Tom McCarthy wins, Spotlight is definitely going to win Best Picture. I don't know if that automatically means he wins director, but I think that pushes him up in the race for director. And I definitely think there's a way he can, beat Inarritu and Miller if they start splitting votes, because they're both kind of that technical achievement of the year, director-wise. And then if Adam McKay wins DGA for Big Short, not only is Big Short going to be our Best Picture winner, I might go ahead and push him to number 1 for director, because that's when they go out of their way. When they really like something like that, that's when we know, oh yeah, they love him. So I have Adam McKay in 2nd place. I might bump him down for George Miller, but I am. It's definitely going to come down for me between Miller and Inarritu here at DGA, with McKay and McCarthy being huge upsets, Scott being a mild upset. So you look at this, Inarritu and Miller could split votes because again, those both are technical achievements. Then again, I'm looking at it. Okay, so Ridley Scott and Miller kind of have one thing going toward them, both of them do, which is that veteran award. They've never won a DGA or even an Oscar. Miller has won an Oscar, but not for directing in the directing category. Neither has Ridley Scott. So those veteran voters might cancel each other out, which leaves a clear path. I think next in line has got to be Inarritu, not McKay or McCarthy. It's got to be Inarritu after them. So and I think that will play into it enough. Plus, Revenant's a popular picture. It was probably in 2nd or 3rd at PGA. So I think The Revenant's going to win. But I'll have final predictions if I change my mind sometime between now and Thursday or Friday, depending on when I shoot the video. I'll let you know who is going to win, in my opinion, who I think is going to win. So anyways, this went on a little longer than I thought it would, but I was just wanted to, first of all, I needed to do something. I'm kind of bored, but and then second of all, I needed to. I knew I was going to have to at one point or another catch up and say, okay, these are our Best Picture nominees, but do I like them? Do I not like them? In general, I liked all of them. So just wanted to get my feelings out there on the individual films too. So until the DGA video, which will be tomorrow or Friday. Oh boy, what a screwy year.